Hello, thank you for joining me once again. Today I am continuing the reading of The Children of the Law of One and the Lost Teachings of Atlantis by Jon Peniel. And we are on chapter 19 on page 274 for those who are reading along, okay? Thank you for subscribing, and I send the invitation to those that are waiting for an invitation to subscribe. So thank you for subscribing and pushing the like button, and let's get started. Chapter 19, The Children of the Law of One, Basic Metaphysics of Science Magic. I need to warn you that this chapter is a bit more intellectual than the others. So, other than the segment about crystals, unless you are a die-hard metaphysicist enthusiast, you may want to skip this chapter. But before you decide to do that, I'd like to say that the segment about the oldest name of God, the oldest known name of God, and that name's metaphysical significance is, to me at least, one of the most important and profound spiritual concepts I have ever found, and played an important role in changing my life. Before I get into everything else in this chapter, I want to say something about metaphysics. Many people think that metaphysics supersedes the laws of physics, but the teachings say that this is not the case. True metaphysics should just expand on the true laws of physics. Over the years, physicists have often discovered that some of what they thought were final facts or immutable laws of physics weren't so immutable after all, and thus not really laws. And in the future, more laws may be broken, but there are certain immutable true laws of physics. They are the ones that are aspects of universal law, and as such will always remain the same. These are the laws that any other law, metaphysical principle, or concept must be in harmony with and be measured against. Thus, if a person wants to learn and understand true metaphysics, there is no better place than to start than by studying and understanding the great laws of the universe. Here are quotes from some of the ancient texts that discuss the basic concepts involved. All is vibration. All vibration follows universal law. All gives, all receives, all loves. All vibration seeks its own level. To find any level, set forth the vibration. By law, you will go there. By law, it will come. Always is there a greater vibration. Always is there a lesser vibration. In harmony with universal law, all vibration moves as one flow. Interrupt the flow only to find in this natural order, thus does it go. In forever passing through, divided in two, receptivity be the way of emptiness. The one calls to come and feel. Giving be the way of abundance. The one flows forth to feel. Always then the way of the flow, dependence on that which is above. The object of dependence to that which is below. Two will repel, two will attract, two will together interact. Look then to four, for all that need be, for all creation. Vibration be one, two, one and two, three, one and two, beget 4, thus opens the infinite door. Yod he, bod he. Pronounce it right to open the gates of heaven and live in the light. Build ye life as the pyramid. 4 corners converge above, with fire in the middle, the fire of love, life, mind, truth, love, spirit. Energy great does course through this earth, collect and direct, if it be your will, with the shape of the temple, pure stones and gold-laden box, or with the mind, focused and pure, lowered in vibration to 10 in meditation. Vibration does flow in body and soul, high and low, in all flesh is written. Tune you may to the right vibration, colors and sounds that change what we know. Use them, may you, to heal, grow, and so. Power great, above and below. Key are vibrations, secret but to few. Find them you will, by measure and trial, and use of the word that rules all creation. Describe a rainbow to a blind man, will you? Open your eyes. Senses 5, does man perceive? The focus on self restricts all that is, limited in scope, the ocean not seen, a drop of rain, he believes is his world. So as he believes, so he shall be, so let it be written. Everything orbits something. All matter is as the universe, stars, planets, time, and space. In search of real metaphysics. When I was a young teenager, I was fascinated with metaphysics and in particular concepts about astral travel, unknown energy, and color/sound healing. I read everything I could find, and much of it was exciting and mentally stimulating. But I soon came to realize that not one of the books gave any real facts about color or sounds or their workings in theory. Sure, some gave information, but made no real sense when you looked into it objectively and thoroughly. It was just metaphysical mumbo jumbo. You might read something like, purple is the color of Aquarius, Thursday, and blah, 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 and is associated with the note low C. Purple can be used to heal the gallstones and blah, blah, blah. But how did purple do that? Why? And what source was this information from? Could it be proven? And I was a musician, yet I couldn't understand what the heck low C was. Other mentions in the book indicated that they were not using the system of sharps and flats in the chromatic musical scale, so it didn't mean C flat. And there was already a mention of regular C. In all the books I read, I couldn't find one thing that a real metaphysician, a scientist, or would-be scientist could actually experiment with or use. I was so happy to find that the children had teachings that actually gave me the physics involved with these sciences and facts that made sense. With this information, I was able to discover many things like the real colors associated with real musical notes. I could demonstrate it mathematically and prove it. And I could make a device that combined the two. This was real metaphysics at last. Crystals. Many people have heard about crystals, and most people sense that there is something very special about them. Friends and books may have made references to crystal energy and healing with them or related crystals, and talked about how cosmic they are. I'd heard all this too, but it was almost always too vague and unsubstantiated for me. I wanted to know more, and I wanted facts. Here are some of those facts, the real metaphysical scoop on crystals. Crystals are amazing energy transmuters. They can take electricity and change it to physical vibration. They can also do the opposite, take vibration and change it to electricity. Because of the transmuting properties of crystals, they have been used by most people on a daily basis for quite some time, and many people aren't even aware of it. In fact, for many years, crystals were vital to the workings of radio and TV. The crystal formations, the vibrations of electricity, changing them to the very rapid and specific vibrations of radio/TV waves. Those waves travel through the air to wherever we are, and then crystals change them back to electricity, allowing us to hear or to see something that is going on in a far away place. Each receiving crystal is tuned to a specific frequency of vibration, which matches a transmuting crystal. By changing your receiving crystal, you change channels. This is the same for radio, TV, walkie-talkies, CB, ham, whatever. Before the advent of synthesized tuners, you had to have a different crystal for every different channel, frequencies, if you wanted to use. Some of you know how all cigarette lighters used to have a flint and wheel, Stone Age stuff, that made sparks that ignited either lighter fluid or butane. Many modern lighters have switched to a different system, crystal technology. Instead of spinning a wheel with your thumb to make a spark, you just push down on a button or plunger and it makes a click and lights. Those lighters use a tiny piece of crystal that creates an electrical spark with no batteries or anything. They take advantage of a property of the crystals they call piezoelectric. It's amazing how they work. When you press down on the lighter's button, it cocks a piece of plastic or metal, and when you hear the click, you are hearing the sound of the crystal being struck by that plastic or metal piece snapping down on it. When the crystal is struck, this creates a vibration pressure on the crystal, causing it to give off a spark of electricity, igniting the butane. You may know that almost every watch and many clocks these days have quartz movements. The quartz crystals in these are used to do the opposite of the quartz in the lighters. It's the same stuff. It's still quartz crystal, but they use it in a different way. In this case, instead of using a vibration strike to make electricity, they use electricity, a battery, to make the crystal vibrate. The constant vibration of the quartz due to applying electricity to it is the basis for measuring off the seconds, minutes, and hours. Because the quartz vibrates, in a constant manner, they can count how many times it vibrates per whatever time period and calculate that to keep time. All of that is pretty amazing, really, but crystals can do much more. In Atlantis, the sons of Belial used lasers and geothermal type approaches to create energy to feed their power-hungry energy demands. As was mentioned earlier, their power plants were instrumental in the terrible, destructive earth changes that destroyed Atlantis. But the children were more power conservative. It's not that they had to do without, but they found that the vast amounts of power that exist in the Earth's biofields was plenty for all their needs. So they used crystals not only for healing, but for powering their buildings and their vehicles. The last of the children's greatest power plants was the Great Pyramid in Egypt. The Great Pyramid was also used for initiation. More about that in the chapter on the death experience. Vishnu, who was an expert on both ancient technology and the present state of the world's technology, explained more to me about the power of the Great Pyramid in Egypt. You have probably heard many things about the Bible's legendary Ark of the Covenant. If you know about electric components, which I did since I was 5 years old, little genius electronic freak, and you read even the worldly Bible's description of the ark, which I hadn't, you will realize that this was a giant electric capacitor. A capacitor is a device usually found in an electronic circuit that stores up electricity to a certain level, then releases it in a burst. This is why the ark had the reputation that if you touched it or got too close to it, you would get zapped by a lightning bolt from God. The size of the ark as a capacitor held a charge big enough to make a bolt that would easily kill anyone who got near it and would kill many people. When I was a child, I opened the back of our TV and there was a label on one of the areas that said, "Warning, high voltage, do not touch." To me, it was an invitation. So what did I do? I touched it. And I got a shock that sent me flying across the room and slammed into a wall. I later found out it was a capacitor. And it was only about the size of a salt shaker. So I can't imagine what a huge thing like the ark would put out. They probably should have called it the ark instead. You know, like an electric arc. Yes, anyway, only David in his humility was able to touch the ark without being killed. Why? Because of his advanced spiritual development. His energy centers, his chakras were prepared to deal with such power and the frequency of the electricity. And of course, with the guidance and of the hierarchy of his destiny, the raw power was transformed and channeled in such a way that it only made for a Kundalini experience, a communing with God. And instead of being killed, he came out of it wiser and more powerful. But you said the ark was a powerful device in Egypt in the Great Pyramid. Why did David have it, and what was he doing with it? It was once the power storage device inside the Great Pyramid. Yes, and I will get to that in a moment. But first, understand what we started to discuss. The pyramid had a layered capstone of copper and custom created quartz crystal from Atlantis. The pyramid would collect energy from the Earth's biofield and focus it in the ark. The ark would release regular bursts of specific frequencies of electrical energy that would be transmuted and transmitted from the crystal capstone. All the children's buildings and vehicles had receiver crystals tuned to the pyramid and would pick up and change the energy back into usable power. We are still using this here today. Now, as for your question about how David came into possession of it, read the text to get the entire story. But basically, during what they called the Exodus, when Moses freed the Jews in Egypt, the Jews went on a sort of freedom celebration rampage as they left and took all kinds of Egyptian treasures, taking everything they could on their way out of town. This, which has been omitted greatly in the world's modern Bible, was one of the primary things which incited the Pharaoh to pursue them. And one of the things they took from Egypt, from the Great Pyramid, was the Ark. Yes, then of course over time, knowledge of its original use was lost. They did not understand its power and attributed it to a power of God, which was quite logical to them. It would strike people down who got near it or touched it, and this was easily interpreted by some that it must be some sort of temple God lived in, and only the holiest of people were allowed to get so close to God. And in it, they eventually put the pieces of the commandments Moses brought them, that he smashed in his righteous indignation and despair over their unconsciousness and selfishness. Where is it now? We have a version of one of the capacitors here, as you know, but the one from the Great Pyramid is located in a small church in Ethiopia. A small church in Ethiopia? Yes, I know it sounds odd, but there is a good reason. It was brought there by a small contingent of Jewish priests because they held it in very high regard as holy religious item and were concerned about it being desecrated or destroyed during an impending invasion. But why Ethiopia? It is a long story, but basically it is because of bonds that had been formed there by the coming together of Solomon and the Queen of Sheba, who was the ruler of what is now called Ethiopia. Just read about it in the text when you have time. Healing with crystals and vibration. All things vibrate and have different vibratory characteristics. Did you know that body parts, including cells and organs, have vibrational signatures? There are healthy vibrational signatures as well as diseased vibrational signatures. Understanding these scientifically and having the advanced technology to alter our body's vibrational signatures allows us to heal many ailments. In Atlantis, crystal technology was used for this, but the amount of knowledge and experimentation involved in cataloging all the different vibrational and electronical parameters of every detailed part of a human body is immense. It staggers the imagination, not to mention the technology involved in creating the right crystals and methods of applying them. But the technology needed to properly use such knowledge is also incredibly advanced. But it was done in Atlantis, and the technology and knowledge was brought to Egypt. and then some of it to Tibet. It has been recently rediscovered by modern scientists, which we will get to in a moment. Atlanteans used very sophisticated crystal technology to heal, and many people internally remember or intuitively sense that this kind of healing did and does exist. So, they try to use quartz crystals this way or go to healers who use crystals, but such crystals are wild cards. They are all formed differently and performed differently, and most who use them are deluding themselves because they didn't know what frequencies they are actually dealing with or how to properly apply them, even if they had the right crystals for the task. Atlanteans had an entire science devoted to the understanding of the body's vibrations. And they had real scientific technology for using crystals to manipulate vibrations very specifically. Atlanteans didn't just pick up a crystal at the local bookstore and try to start healing with it. Whether it was to be used for healing or powering a house, Atlanteans' technology gave them access to many different specifically designed crystals, each designed to specific parameters according to their scientific knowledge of making each one a specific tool for a specific vibratory function. There were thousands of specifically tuned crystals available for healing alone. Using a quartz crystal without the extensive knowledge involved in using it properly is not only likely to be useless, but it can be harmful under certain circumstances. In other instances, the placebo effect can induce healing, though. For those who want to use crystal vibration healing techniques, there are valuable alternatives for modern scientific research. There are a couple of amazing devices that are close to the old Atlantean technology, but it took resources like government laboratories and scientists to develop them. They are called the electroacouscope and the electromyopulse, manufactured by a company called Electromedical in Fountain Valley, California. While the devices use the same principles involved with Atlantean crystal healing, neutralizing disease frequency vibration and transmuting healthy frequency vibrations, they use a somewhat different method of creating the body frequency vibration, a vibrational synthesis. While not as sophisticated or powerful as the Atlantean technology, these amazing devices not only heal, but give the body and mind a tune-up so it can function at its maximum potential. We studied and tested these machines extensively and objectively for about 10 years. It is our opinion that if every doctor used one, hospitals would have about 90% less patients. And while the devices remain relatively unknown, even suppressed, they are used by Super Bowl winning football teams, PGA golf, pro golfers, Olympic athletes, Walter Reed Hospital in Washington, D.C., where the top U.S. government politicians and military leaders go, and the Pope. So, if you're serious about vibrational healing these days, the company can give you a referral to a doctor, physical therapist, or chiropractor who has one. Or you can buy your own if you have the money. The vibrational nature of the universe. Everything in the universe is vibrating. Even light is vibrating. Different frequencies of vibration give us the different colors, just like different frequencies of vibration give us the different notes in an octave of sound. The so-called 5 physical senses, touch, smell, hearing, taste, and sight, are all biological sensors that, for the most part, detect vibration in different ways. While smell doesn't directly sense a vibration, it is directly sensing physical objects in the air that have different vibrational parameters. Each sense perceives vibration within specific, limited frequencies band. For example, though the sense of hearing, most people perceive vibrational frequencies in the 20 to 20,000 cycle per second range, we call that sound. The eye picks up much faster vibrations that we call light. But the 5 biological sensors we use only pick up a very, very small part of the infinite vibrational frequency spectrum. There are other frequency bands that the 5 senses cannot perceive, which puts a big hole in our information about what is really there. And for most people, this very limited data from the 5 sensors is the only thing that allows them to be in touch with the world around them. We are, for the most part, virtually blind in this universe. Humans have built machines that pick up some of the vibrations we can't get with our 5 senses. These machines translate what they pick up into the range that we can get with one of our senses. For instance, our eyes don't pick up on X-rays. They only see the slower vibrating visible light range. So we made X-ray machines that take pictures to show us the results of using the X-rays on a film that we can see with visible light. Can you imagine being able to see such things as X-rays and gamma rays all the time? Radio waves are also in a vibratory frequency band that is not within the range of any of our senses. The circuitry the circuitry in a radio or TV changes these vibrations to frequencies of vibrations our senses of sight and hearing can perceive. There are many other things that we do not normally perceive, but all of these things and much, much more are available for us to perceive when we transcend the limits of our separate self. Okay, I'm going to stop there for this will be chapter 19, part 1 of, and we stopped on the part of illusions on page 281. The Children of the Law of One, The Lost Teachings of Atlantis by Jon Peniel. Hasn't this been a great read? Yes, lots of wonderful information about crystals and such, and the Great Pyramid, and so on and so forth. So, thank you for listening, and until the next time, have the most benevolent day, okay?